Hello and welcome to the Gwladys Beat Podcast. You're joined this week by myself and Dawn. How are you doing, Dawn?
I'm all right. How are you doing, Mike?
Yeah, not too bad. Not a great week to talk about, to be honest, but someone's got to do it, haven't they?
Yeah, unfortunately.
So we've got quite a bit to cover this week. We'll start off, obviously, with the debacle at the weekend and then move on to the broader outlook for the season, touch on the FA Cup and then circle back around to the game on Thursday, which is getting even more and more menacing by the day, isn't it? So, yeah, I suppose we might as well start with the game the other day at Palace. I think it's a game that everyone saw as being quite important, really, in the run of fixtures. You know, when you look at those fixtures over the December period, that was one of the games that I think everybody looked at and maybe not assumed 3 points, but definitely thought if we were going to get them along this little run of games, and that would probably be the best opportunity. So, how did you see the game go? And how did we manage to mess it up quite so badly?
Um, it was like a different team, wasn't it, from the Arsenal game? I mean, we went into the Arsenal game and no one expected anything because of the form. But the likes of Richarlison in that game was the £50 million player we bought, and other players were putting themselves about a bit. Obviously, the Damari Gray finish was great. But then you take how we played in that game, and then we go away to Palace and get we're away. We're always a bit more defensive. It was like a different team. I mean, Richarlison wasn't even in the game, and I know he didn't have any service, but he just wasn't in the game. What we all thought.
Yeah, well, it was embarrassing, to be honest, watching not even necessarily the performance, because you can understand when a couple of players, aren't quite on the game. It was probably one of the worst 45 minutes of football I've seen from Decore in the first half. To be honest, he just couldn't put a pass together. I've never seen a team make it look so difficult to do basic things in football so frequently as Everton this season. I mean, the ball retention was non-existent against the pretty average Palace side, and they didn't even. The annoying thing was they didn't do anything particularly great, to stop us playing or to really put us on the back foot. They just did the basics, and we just sat back and let them do that. And then trying to play on the break against Palace away, we've moaned for years, haven't we, about doing that against top four teams and not going and try and have a little bit of go back. But doing that against the Palace side, who are probably going to be mid-table, maybe lower mid-table, it just seemed clueless, to be honest. And I haven't seen much of a plan aside from the Arsenal game, which at least we showed a little bit of heart, a little bit of effort. But even so, I think the attack and play, once we get the ball, aside from get it to the wings and then cross it to whoever's in the middle, which a lot of the time is nobody, if Richarlison's not in the middle, I don't see the game plan. I don't see what attacking formations we're picking up. I don't see what spaces we're trying to play through. And it's just frustrating, isn't it? Because we are quite genuinely in a relegation scrap now if the Chelsea and Leicester games don't go to plan. So it's just beyond what I think any of us would have considered earlier in the season, isn't it? Especially after those first 5 or 6 games, to have picked up 5 points in the last 10 games, is it? That's not good enough.
Yeah, I agree with the game plan, but it seems because when Benitez come in, we had so little money. He brought in Townsend, didn't he, and Gray to get the balls into the box for DCL, and he's just not been there. I think, everyone goes, oh, you can't blame it on injuries, but let's be honest, and obviously we've got worse news today, that if you're missing your first choice striker, pretty much for the whole of the season so far, apart from the first couple of games, and then your second choice striker, and then you bring in an unfit striker who's knocking on a bit. You've got no spare fullbacks apart from centre halves. Like, you haven't got even players good enough to play in the middle when Decore wasn't there. Whether we like it or not, and whether we like the manager or not, injuries have massively influenced where we are. And I think like everyone kicked off, didn't they? Richarlison being removed on Saturday because no one knew about the injury. Don't think Benitez helped himself, shaking his head at the fans. But if he was injured at half time, then he should never have continued. For me,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, no, I think Richarlison's reaction didn't help as well. If he's injured and he goes down, I'm not sure whether his reaction was towards the fact that he was injured and he's frustrated at that, or whether the medical team are telling him he's injured and he's saying that he's not, and so he's frustrated that he's been taken off. You don't really know, do you? So I think the reaction was as much from the fans, probably as much at the fact that Richarlison didn't want to go off or didn't seem to want to go off, and if he's fit to play, then you can't take Richarlison off at that point in the game. But obviously, as it turns out, he does appear to be injured. He's done his calf, and so in hindsight, it's probably a good decision because 3 or 4 weeks is much better than being out for 3 or 4 months. Because even when DCL comes back, you're going to need someone else there with a little bit of quality because there's not an awful lot of it going around in that team, as far as I can see.
No.
So
what if you could take any positives from the game? What would it be? Like individual players or anything really?
Anything. I suppose Rondon scoring's got to be a bonus, hasn't it? In as much as it's a little bit of it just breaks that duck for him, doesn't it? There's nothing worse as a striker than knowing you still haven't scored, and every chance you miss, you still haven't scored any goals this season. So I'm not saying he's going to go on and be prolific, but at least now it might free him up a little bit. He might try and get in the box a little bit more. And sometimes, once you've got one, you can just turn on something and those little snapshots go in, don't they? So we really do need some goals from somewhere. Because you look around that team without Richarlison or Calvert-Lewin in it, and you've probably got 3 or 4 players who might get you 5 goals a season. At most. You're looking at Decore, Gray, Townsend, presumably Gordon, but he's having a tough time in front of goal at the minute, isn't he? So
yeah, he's another one, isn't he, that he needs to break that. He's got that money back for like over a season now.
Yeah, definitely. I think with going out on loan as well to the Championship and not getting one, that's probably something that's played on his mind. And that chance he had in the second half, it wasn't a sitter, but I think a decisive player, with a coming on off some good form, maybe a Gray in that situation, maybe just attacks it with a little bit more vigour. And I always thought Gordon was trying to pick his head up to see where Rondon was, and then he didn't really have an easy ball onto him, so just thought I'll hit it across goal. But maybe if he just, scored a couple in his last few games, he just runs onto that and just kills into the far corner. But
yeah, I think it was a good change. He moved his feet round the ball when he knew he couldn't give it to Rondon. But obviously the keeper's coming in low. He's got to lift it, I think.
Yeah, it's one of
those
ones you need to smash into the roof of the net, isn't it, really, I think? But
yeah, it's probably his confidence in front of goal, but I think anyone sort of playing a Premier League standard has got to at least do better.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't really... He didn't hit it with much conviction, did he? You could tell it was a player who didn't think he was going to score in that position. Yeah. And that goes for the team at the moment, to be honest. You can't expect the players to be confident on the run of form that we're in fairness, but it's just when you're so threadbare, and I'm not blaming this on the manager necessarily because you don't know what's gone on, but the fact that Luca Dean, who is arguably, he hasn't had a great season, but who has, and he's definitely a player that you probably want in and around the team, for a bit of creativity and just a bit of quality, to be honest. The fact that he's been bombed, does he come back in now for the Chelsea game, seeing as we've got about 11 players left? Or, does Benitez stick to his guns? So it's one of those where Benitez comes into places and seems to pick fights with people wherever he goes. He doesn't get on with directors of football, sometimes ownership, falls out with players, and it just seems to be repeating itself here. He seems to have complete control over football and matters at the moment anyway, and he seems to be falling out with some of our better players, which is frustrating.
And I understand about if if he's been, because I can't remember his exact words, Benitez about being more about the team than the individual where Dean's concerned. But with the new injuries, Seamus not being available, Mina's still injured. For me, he's got to come straight back into left back and switch Godfrey to right hand side, and because the other option's Kenny, and he's just not good enough, is he?
Yeah. I mean, you'd be up against on that left hand side for Chelsea. There's plenty of, there's plenty of people who would teach him a lesson, I think, isn't there, if you throw Kenny in for his first game of the season? But we'll see. So I suppose on a sort of broader outlook, what are your thoughts? You still seem quite compassionate, if that's the right word, towards Benitez. I mean, I'm not sensing any hostility at this moment, despite the results.
Well, there's loads of rumours knocking around, isn't there? There's rumours that Benitez will get the push in a few games because we'll be in the relegation zone. Ferguson will take over. Is that the right decision now? There's rumours Ferguson's walked. Where the manager's concerned, I just think, I know Brands has gone and he was part of the problem, but you're just scratching the surface there. We need a complete clear out from top to bottom, and doing it mid-season isn't going to work. So I honestly think once we get our players back fit and we do have a stronger squad, we're going to have to fight. We're going to have to fight, obviously, but I think we'll probably end up, around mid-table because we've got quality. So I don't think, where he's concerned, he's made some bad decisions, like you say, the Dean stuff, but so many injuries and we don't have a big squad anyway. I just think we can't change in this season, maybe sack him at the end of the season. But, I mean, the shaking the heads at the fans and stuff like that, I don't really know who he thinks he is. But, there's just so many problems. The club's a shambles and he's just part of it. So,
yeah.
What's your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think the problems go far deeper than Benitez, as you say. You go and replace him with Big Dunk. It maybe galvanises the fans for a couple of games, but surely if Big Dunk's up to being a manager, he'd have gone and done a Gerrard at the moment. Surely that Rangers job would have been a great opportunity for him to go and interview for it. And I know they sort of bombed him after the headbutting incident, and I don't know how that would have gone down, but there's a lot of there's been a lot of opportunities, particularly in the lower leagues and Scottish football, for him to go and just try and test his arm rather than just staying around Everton as assistant manager for years. So throwing him in for the season doesn't appeal to me. And then who'd you get in midway through the season who's going to come in and turn it round? It's a bit of a poison chalice at the moment, isn't it, Everton? Because there's the promise of the ground and possible future spending, but you're not going to be able to get any. You're not going to be able to spend anything for about 2 or 3 years until FFP comes round, are you? Or you take a chance and sell Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison and then bank on yourself to replace them. But yeah, it's one of those. It's probably the first time in a long time where you literally don't know where to start with the structure of the club, isn't it?
Yeah.
The manager doesn't seem particularly right. There's no one directly above him aside from the owner. The owner is probably the right man doing it the wrong way. And it's to what extent any conversation with fan groups and stuff is going to make him change tact and start having less influence over the running of the football club.
Yeah, so, I know like you don't, or you shouldn't listen to the press because a lot of the time they talk out the backsides, but some of the stuff on TalkSport and even the Athletic, they focusing on Messeri. Like he's come in, he did his time at Arsenal, didn't he, as one of the sort of shareholders on the board. So he should have learned stuff there, come here, and he's obviously been very excited about running his own football club, threw money at it, brought in people that he thought was good, but he needs, I think we've said it before, he needs someone that knows what they're doing and he needs to trust them because it's all like everything to do with the club. I mean, going right through the backroom staff as well, like all of it just needs changing. None of this jobs for the boys. You mentioned Ferguson. Gerrard's done it exactly the right way. Go out, prove yourself as a manager, and if you want to be Everton manager, go and do that. Be successful, and then come back. but don't just sit there and go, I want the Everton job. Well, you've got no credentials. And actually, everyone goes, oh, Big Dunk did great when he was in charge. He had a 25% success rate at winning games. Like, that 1 in 4, that's not good. And Benitez is actually higher than that. It's about early 30s, which isn't great either, but...
Living the high life in the early 30s, eh? Winning a third of our games, getting there.
That's being an Evertonian, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
Things get worse every day.
Yeah, so we touched on it before. Just today's latest kick in the shin, so shall we say? Richie, Townsend, and Coleman seem to be out of the Chelsea game. Richarlison for about a month, which doesn't help with the fixture congestion. Townsend, unknown amount of time, but a broken foot doesn't sound like it's going to be a quick turnaround. And then Coleman, less serious, but arguably the least of the three you'd want back. So, what? Not in a disrespectful way, you know. He shouldn't be anywhere near the team. That's not his fault. That's the club's fault. But you know that the other day is just costing us goals at the moment, isn't he? And there's no one to come in. I think to be honest, if you brought Dean back and threw Godfrey in at right back, I think Godfrey is possibly a better fullback than he is a centre half at the moment, to be honest. So you could almost save yourself some money if Godfrey turned out, you know, to have a good few games there. He needs to work on going forward. He's not great. He's not a great crosser of the ball, but you could work on that. He's definitely got the pace up and down, hasn't he? And he's got the engine to do it. So I think, based on the performance I've seen him have a fullback and what he's done at centre half, I wouldn't be too against the idea of throwing him out there for a prolonged period of time. I don't know what you're...
The only thing I'd say is, first on Coleman, I feel dead sorry for him at the moment. We've known for years he was coming to the end of his career, and I think he is good enough as a bit part player. You know, like how Baines sort of got phased out. That's where Coleman should be now, and obviously no one's done anything about it. So his game's getting worse. He's having to play every game. He's straining things. He's making mistakes. He's getting frustrated with himself, and I think that's dead sad. Where Godfrey is concerned, I thought he was one of the positives the other night because he was very aggressive. The only thing is he plays like a different... He is a better fullback, I agree with that, but he plays a different game whether he's left back or right back. When he's on his strong foot, he advances more and gets caught out of position. But when he's on his left foot, he's still not... Positionally, I think, is one of his weak parts of his game, but he's better on his weaker foot than on his stronger foot.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I think when he's on his left, he tends to, unless the game's quite open, he tends to come back on his right and play a little bit safer, doesn't he? You know, rather than just absolutely swashbuckling down the wing, which he does when he's on the right hand side and gets caught out now and again. But yeah, I thought it was really good the other day, particularly first half, first 60 minutes, and then you know the game became a bit of a mess after that, I thought. But yeah, I thought he had a really good game. I think, as you say, positionally he's not great. So when he's central, it tends to lead to more chances, and you know it's more dangerous being out of position as a centre half than it is being a left back, because generally you'll have a little bit of cover. So I think that does suit him at the moment, particularly against better teams where you'll get found out. But no, I think the Coleman thing's sad to see, but on the other hand, I still think Leighton Baines would probably be the best player in this team if he decided to throw a kit on. So, yeah, it's sad because you can see he really cares. He's tried to do everything right through the press, and he's tried to lead by example on the pitch as well. You know, he's putting in those tackles. He's given everything, but he's just getting to that point where everything isn't quite enough, is it? And he should have been phased out probably 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, and like he still had something last season though when he come on against Spurs at home in the cup, and I thought he was awesome. I thought he completely changed the game. But yeah, if he was a bit part player now, I think even going forward he'd give us something. But he just doesn't have it in his locker to keep playing every game. Plus the fact We haven't got our two strongest centre-halves behind him. So as a fullback, that will affect your game. It'll affect the centre midfielders as well, knowing the Holgate in there. Or if it's not Holgate, it's Godfrey.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I completely agree. And then the Townsend thing, I suppose the obvious option is to throw Gordon back in, isn't it? And then probably go 4 across the midfield. I don't know if Alan's back, but hopefully he's not far off, because I did think we missed that bite in midfield with Alan gone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's necessarily a full-blown holder midfielder in the same way that Kante is, but I think he closes down and presses well, and he nicks the ball rather than watching Andre Gomez trying to put a tackle in the other day. It was embarrassing after a great cameo against Arsenal as well, where you sort of thought maybe he's back. Maybe this is the Andre Gomez we bought, but as soon as he needs to put a foot in, it's just non-existent, isn't it?
Yeah, he was like that. He looked against Arsenal. He was off the pace defensively. He didn't look sharp, and to be fair, he hasn't played for ages. But I think when you've got an Allen in there, like you say, who's like a little Rottweiler snapping at your ankles constantly, you've got more protection to do your job as a Gomez. Whereas Delph doesn't play the same game as Allen, and that's why I thought that the midfield was more open, because we didn't have Allen in there, and they didn't even. We found out dead late that there was something wrong with Allen, didn't we? I don't even know what's up with him. Yeah.
No, I think there's been an update today, but didn't get a chance to check it. So hopefully he's back. If not, hopefully he's back for the Leicester game, because I don't think I'll be risking him against Chelsea, to be honest. If it's 50-50, I'm not that hopeful of a result. But yeah, so I think we've been forcibly asked almost to give a league prediction for this season. It's definitely not something I'd encourage.
Is this
yeah,
this is Christmas or at the end of the season?
I think it's at the end of the season. This is bottom of Christmas, top 4 by the end of the season.
Something like that. I think we'll definitely be in the relegation zone after Christmas.
Yeah.
But I think we've got enough quality in the squad to get back to probably around mid-table, possibly not higher, but with the quality we've got. But obviously, we need to be fit.
Yeah.
How about you?
I saw like an article today on Twitter. I think it's like where Opta do their stats, based on current performance, players, all that, and they throw it all into a big pot and then comes out with a position. And it had us getting 45 points and finishing 12th, just behind Palace, which, to be honest, I'd rip your hand off for at the moment. A nice, comfortable 12th finish. But yeah, I think we'll probably be there and thereabouts. It's to what extent I trust these players in a crisis. And you don't want to get into that point where you've got 10 games left and you're needing results against big teams. I think we can just get through this little period of, the Leicester game's a massive game now, even though they sort of seems to be picking up a little bit of form, out of the Europa League. But that's a massive game. And then if you can pick up a few points just after Christmas, beat who you should beat, get up to around 30 points, then I think we'll be fine. It just worries me if we get into February and we're still there and thereabouts. That's when you'll see what these players are made of, I think, especially with a lot of them probably coming back from injury at that point as well.
Yeah. Well, all you need in some instances is work, right? You look at Gallagher and Ayew the other night. I mean, Gallagher, it seems like a different player at Palace. He scored that beast of a goal. But he was just everywhere, and he didn't stop running, he didn't stop working. And if the players give that every week, you can't really... I know we've got quality as well, but you can't really ask for much else. And when you look at the teams, just looking at the bottom of the table now, Norwich, I mean, they're pretty much gone on. They're 10 points. Newcastle, Burnley, Watford, Southampton, and then there's Leeds and us. And you go, oh, come on. Like, Newcastle probably going to spend money in January because they've got the new ownership. Burnley don't have money, and neither do Norwich, and Watford are struggling. So you'd hope that they're the three.
You'd hope we're better than at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I do think, I think we're naive to think that we're not in some sort of relegation scrap. I think that the reality has to dawn at some point that we haven't got enough points, and if you look back over it, we've been beaten by Brentford, we've been beaten by Watford, and then I think pretty much the rest of the season I've blanked out my head. So, yeah, we're definitely there and thereabouts. I think at the moment. Hopefully, when Calvert-Lewin comes back, he can take a little bit of the stress off. From the front end. Score a few goals, take the pressure off the defense a little bit, because we're just not at the moment. Every time, I know we seem to be really good coming from behind, but we're conceding every game, so it doesn't help when you haven't got a real striker or particularly prolific wingers either. So you just don't know where a goal's going to come from at the moment. Whereas if he comes back with a bit of form, then you might, if you're 1 or 2 goals up in a game, it's a lot different to if you're chasing it constantly. I think we've been behind in 14 games this season or something. All but 2 we've gone behind in, something like that.
No, the thing I'm impressed with, that they said that we were like the comeback kings this season. We've done it more times than anyone else, which, if you think of Everton over the past X number of seasons, that's, if we've gone behind, we're lucky to come back. So, I mean, that's good, because it gives us a little bit of hope. But like you say, we shouldn't be conceding so many. And Pickford's actually pulling off some really good saves in some games as well.
He's arguably one of the few players that you can't really give much criticism to, which is shocking. But yeah, so thankfully that's out the way. Now we can look forward and pretend to be optimistic about future games. So we'll touch on now the whole FA Cup draw. So we've got Hull away, a game which you'd hope that we might be able to win. Might have a chance at that one.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking? Are you going to head up, down, across to Hull, wherever it is?
I know, yeah, up, down, where is it? Actually, yeah, I am going to go, because the last time I went, it was 30th of December. I don't remember the result. It was like a New Year's Eve footy day out. But yeah, no, I'll go to Hull, because you would expect us to win, but obviously it depends if we've got anyone back.
Yeah.
Relying on Rondon and Gordon. I can't see us scoring, but are you gonna make the journey one way or another?
So. Yeah, I think so. There's enough tickets, isn't it? So you don't really have to concern yourself with the result if we get beat. Just stay in Hull. Stay in Hull forever. Support them. But
as long as they keep the bar open.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Like at Chelsea the other season. I'm not going back up there to watch that.
Yeah, I won't be making the coach home if we're losing at half time, I don't think. But yeah. So I think pretty optimistic, about making the next round, aren't we? Hopefully, it'll be a massacre in the stands if we don't, I think. But is that the priority at the moment in general, the FA Cup?
Well, the priority should be to stay in the Premier League first of all, which I think we've got enough quality to do. But I'd say we do need some reinforcements in January. But apart from that, yeah, because we're out the other cup, gone literally, apart from survival, we've got nothing else to play for, and maybe a good cup run will give us a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
And the FA Cup's the one that you want to win, isn't it? I mean, it's lost its shine over the years, because I think when everyone used to play at 3:00 on a Saturday, it was a bit more exciting. But yeah, domestically, that's the cup that you want to win, really, isn't it?
We keep telling ourselves that as we're out of the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it definitely is. It's yeah. I was thinking, how much emphasis can we really put on the FA Cup? If you go and get a couple of injuries against Hull, and then you're in the next round, and you're risking players, and you're still there and thereabouts. But as you say, it so often breeds a little bit of confidence, doesn't it? And it does give you that impetus, especially when you're playing against teams that are sort of on a par with you, like Hull. You can pick up a few points from those games. Well, start picking up points around that and get a few players scoring goals. But
I thought you'd be optimistic. few more injuries in the Hull's game.
I know, yeah. Well,
Might be
I just
getting
expect
you might get a phone call up and he says, have a game.
I wouldn't mind, but the under-21s aren't doing that well either, are they? So you can't even throw it to play the under-21 shout though. But
that's the
yeah,
thing, though, isn't it? A lot of people go on about, get Ellis Sims on and get Dobbin on, and you just think, particularly the Ellis Sims shout, and I know I've banged on about it before, but so many managers have seen him and not wanted to play him, so the quality mustn't be there, and that goes back to all the problems at the club, doesn't it? We shouldn't have given him a new contract, maybe.
Yeah, well, I think the Ellis Sims thing is that might be a good opportunity to play him before he goes to Blackpool potentially, because it looks like he's going to go on loan to Blackpool in January again. Get some Championship football according to the Blackpool chairman, who keeps constantly touting a 6-month loan. So maybe it wouldn't be a bad move for him. Just, a step up from League One last year, and Benitez has had a chance to have a good look at him. It's tough, isn't it? Because you say we shouldn't have given him a 3-year contract, but then he is up against, in theory, 3 international players. Cenk probably still gets in the Turkey team. Seems to just be captain of that team regardless of whether he's playing football or not, to be honest. So Cenk probably still gets in the Turkey squad. Rondon's in the Venezuela squad all the time, and Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are both internationals, aren't they now? So it's one of them. He's only a 20-year-old lad. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here, but
you really said he's up against Cenk and Rondon.
That's the levels we've reached now. Yeah, he's up against the lethal Cenk. But you laugh, but we'll probably end up seeing him tomorrow or Thursday against Chelsea, won't we? Now that we've got no one else to play there.
4-4-2, him and Rondon up front together. Oh my days.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't rain or that hair powder will be all over the place, won't it?
Are you going?
No, I was going to, but I just couldn't bring myself to. When it was a Thursday night, I just thought I'd have to take the afternoon off work to get back early hours in the morning to watch us. Hopefully not, but probably get beat 5-0 again, or wherever it was. What was it, 4-1 when we were there last time?
Yeah, something like 4-1. I think it was 4-1-2.
There wasn't anything to write home about, was it?
No, I think it'd probably be worse.
Yeah, but we'll see. I've arranged to go on my football night out instead on Thursday, so hopefully I won't even catch the score until I'm past Karen. But,
yeah, if you pass a cup with the match on, don't look.
No.
You're ruining your night.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. Fingers crossed, I suppose. What are your thoughts on it? Do you hold out any hope, or?
No, I mean, like you say, City, Liverpool, and Chelsea, and probably. I know Liverpool have got like a decent bench, but the quality that Chelsea have got, I mean, they could lend us 11 players and still have about 15 players to put on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got so much strength and depth, so much quality, and I just think we've got no chance. And he just needs the damage limitation for me, because we don't have a Richarlison to nip in and try and nick us a goal. We're going to have Rondon up front. Just park the bus for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that's almost what we were trying to do against Palace very ineffectively, which worries me. We don't look able to attack, but we also don't look able to defend, which is quite a challenge for a team who has to do one or the other usually. So I just don't know how he's going to set it up. I don't know what combination of players you could put on that pitch, the way we're playing at the moment, and come away with something. So, I go combative in midfield, maybe an Alan, Decore, Delph 3 if Alan's fit, and then just play with Gordon and Gray on the wings probably, and it'll be Rondon up front, won't it, realistically now? So, yeah, it's probably as good as you can get.
I wouldn't risk Alan if he's back. Like you said,
No.
We're going to lose anyway. We might as well just keep him when we play Leicester when we're around. Give us a 10. But things like that defensively, and you think how good they are and how great their movement is with players. Like, I mean, I love Mason Mount. I think he's boss. And that goal we conceded against Palace, where from the set play where Coleman was fouled in the first place, and Godfrey just switches off, and like their defender just comes in and it's a tap in. Like, you do that against Chelsea and you switch off for a second. Like, you don't know how many goals they're going to put in the back of your net.
Yeah. I think you just got to try and keep it tight for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, haven't you? That if we go and do what we did against Liverpool and just end up 2-0 down in the first 20 minutes or wherever it was, then it's going to be a long, long night, I think, because I think they can control a game, especially at home, better than Liverpool did at Goodison. Liverpool almost shut off for 20 minutes at the end of the first half and led us back into it, whereas I think Chelsea would just go for the jugular, wouldn't they? So, yeah, not much hope. Do you want me to ask for a score prediction, or are you going to no, refrain from that?
I think Everton to win on the bet odds would probably be about 2 million to 1.
Yeah. It's not a bet I'll be taking. Yeah, a fool and his money are easily parted. So, but yeah, so I agree. I'm not going to give a score prediction. We'll say we might hang on for a 0-0 draw. There's a bit of ambition for you.
Yeah, that's a bit of optimism.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see it happening.
No.
But yeah, is there anything else you want to cover? We've stormed through it, but I think we can't be too negative, can we, for the duration? Maybe if we've got a win next week, we might be a bit more upbeat.
What, next week against Leicester?
Yeah. Well, we've got to win sometime, haven't we, you'd have thought?
You'd hope the home crowd would get us over the line a bit, wouldn't you? But for me, it just partially depends on the personnel available.
Yeah.
I mean, Decore, when he's fractured his metatarsal and stuff, he's come back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the likes of Townsend, how quick he's going to recover. And yeah. We need to bring people in January, don't we? But they're saying there's no money.
Yeah. There's the same old rumours, isn't there, of people like Aaron Ramsey and things like that, which seems like such an Everton signing. Free transfer, but on £12 million a year or something. I saw the other day, which is just ridiculous. So,
how much is that a week?
So, what would that be?
That's $1 million a month.
Yeah, 250 grand a week, basically.
It's not that good.
An injury-prone Aaron Ramsey to come and do his ACL in the first week of being here, inevitably. But yeah, so who knows? I think it'll be loans, won't it?
Yeah. Back
to the good old days of loan signings, if we can find any. And I saw a little thing today about possibly being linked with Dynamo Kiev left back Myolenko.
Right.
But that sounds ominously like a Luka Dean replacement to me. So that maybe they're just putting 2 and 2 together there. But I suppose it depends how much Rafa decides he's falling out with Dean, doesn't it, at that point? And also whether Benitez is there to make the decisions come January. But,
yeah, I mean, for me, it needs to be loans because I don't particularly want them past this season. And I don't think we'll be in a good state at the end of the season. And I certainly wouldn't want someone else to bring in players and then they get moved on and we're left with some other dross.
Yeah. You don't want to be lumbered constantly, do you, with people on 2 and 3 year contracts on massive wages for a manager who's no longer there. So that's pretty much the issue with the current squad. And so you've got to stop repeating that at some point, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few out of contract this season, I think.
Yeah.
Superchenk and who's the other one?
Is Delph out of contract this year? Delph must be coming towards the end.
Yeah. I mean, he was only 8 million, wasn't he? But 27. That's where Big Sam said he would have done a good job for us a bit longer. He brought in Theo Walcott and Cheng Tosin.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he came out with some crazy theories, didn't he, at the time? Who was he after? Did he say I can't even remember what it was at the time, but didn't he say he was going for Lewandowski or something ridiculous?
Does he play for Sam?
Oh no, it was Aubameyang. There's someone ridiculous that he just started throwing names out. It's like when Walsh left and started saying he had Erling Haaland in the door and all these other ones that went on. Harry Maguire. I think he thought he had for £1 million and stuff. So it's easy to say when you've done it, isn't it? But then at the end of the day, what you've actually done is bought Sandro, Theo Walcott, Cenk Tosun, and a load of other no marks that most of them are still at the club.
Yeah, but the big one for me for Welsh was one of my favourite players over since he's been there, which was Garner. Look at him now, playing boss for one of the big boys in Europe. Like, we've missed him since he left.
To what extent they've been allowed to do the job is another thing, isn't it? Altogether, I think Cenk seems to have been a Mashiri buy based on the fact that he watched him in Monaco one time. So who can you really blame in this?
He watched him that one time, said he had a great smile and a nice right. That's insane, then.
Yeah, perfect fit.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure the rumour mill will be in full flow over the next few weeks. Calvert-Lewin to Arsenal, etc.
Well, I don't think we'll be losing any players this season, like going, unless it's I can't even see Dean going. But I think the likes of DCL and Michelle will have to go to get new players in. But there was a rumour of Martial on loan, which I don't particularly like him, but beggars can't be choosers and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's better than what we've got, isn't he? So you can't say no to it. But I suppose a loan limits your exposure, doesn't it, to him, because he comes across as a bit of an idiot, quite frankly. His attitude stinks whenever I watch him, but undoubtedly got ability. So if you could sign him, at least he gives you a goal threat, doesn't he, and another option. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get plenty of them over the next few weeks. Ridiculous loan deals and free transfers, people trying to flog all sorts. So see what we end up with.
More drugs.
Yeah. Hopefully no more Cenks.
The happy life of an Evertonian.
No, yeah. We're just talking about I hope what was going to be an ambitious transfer window and managed to depress ourselves more.
If you did a survey, what's the biggest cause of alcoholism in Liverpool? It would be Everton Football Club.
Probably in England, to be fair.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I think we covered everything. Is there anything else any other names you want to throw into the mix that might liven things up? I've given Lewandowski and
Ibrahimovic.
We'll take him. We'll take anyone with a goal with him.
Centre half or centre forward, he can just beat people up on the pitch.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, we'll have some more names for you next week if you tune in. So yeah.
So I'm glad we're not doing another podcast straight after Chelsea anyway. At least hopefully we can get a draw or something at home against Leicester.
Yeah, overwhelmingly positive after that.
Yeah.
Right, so thanks for joining us on the Gwladys Beat Podcast. It's been me and Dawn. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you again next week.
See ya.